It is now 6 o'clock, and we will open the Brunswick City Commission regularly scheduled commission meeting for Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. Please stand for invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Most heavenly, most gracious Father, Spirit of the one true and living God, we thank you now, God, for this opportunity to come before you one more time. We thank you now for these, your people that have gathered here. We ask now, God, that you will bless the deed, bless the decisions that will be made on tonight for the betterment of our community. We ask now, God, that you will just allow the ideas and the conversation to flow as you would have it to flow, God. Let all things be done accordingly, decently, and order. God, we give you praise, we give you honor. In the matchless name of Jesus Christ, we pray and amen.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, Republic, and God.
We'll now move on to the approval of the agenda and the adoption of the August 21st, 2024 regular scheduled meeting minutes. Do we have any subtractions or addendums?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like
Yes.
to add
Yes.
I'd like to add as item number 13 on city attorney's item, consider approval of St. Mark's Tower Preservation LP Development Agreement.
Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes and the item is added. Any additional subtractions or addends? Hearing none, we'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the agenda for August 21st, 24 as amended.
Added here,
Second.
here in the first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to a public hearing from the Finance Department. City of Brunswick proposed 2024 millage rate. City Manager.
Good evening, and thank you again for the opportunity to present the information regarding the proposed property tax increase and adoption of the 2024 mill rate. This is the third of our public hearings that are required by state law, OCGA 48-5-32, which is to notify the public and provide opportunity for public input and feedback regarding the actions being proposed, the adoption millage rate, which governs the city's taxation. The 2024 digest includes real and personal property of $480,811,000, motor vehicles of $1,133,000, mobile homes of $16,880, and heavy equipment of $9,000, for a total gross millage of gross digest of $482,707,412. Exemptions for its tax digest are $16,264,000 for a net digest of $466,505,610. The M&O millage is 33.95 mils. You roll with that back based on the calendar year 2023 sales tax. The rollback is equal to 20 mils, 20.73 mils, which leaves a net M&O millage rate of 13.219. That millage rate equates to $6.1 million of estimated taxes and a net increase of 2.89%. The proposed millage rate is 13.19, which is the same rate that we've had for the last 10 years. However, state requires that the city calculate a rollback millage rate, which equates millage that the city would have if we did not have any increase in the digest. This increased by a net $13.1 million, which includes $33 million in added value and a decrease of $19.9 million changes. If you calculate the millage without the changes, the millage rate would be 12.82, which is 0.937 mills less than the proposed millage rate. Because of this difference, the state requires us to have the public hearings and publicize a tax increase. The millage rate is not changing, but the increase over the rollback millage to be reported as an increase. Because of this, well, as previously stated, the millage rate is not increasing. So for persons whose property values did not change, their taxes would be the same. The only taxpayers that will be affected by the increase are the ones that property value increased and ones that added value to their property. For a home valued at $100,000, the difference would be approximately 37, and for a home valued at $300,000, the difference would be approximately $112. The proposed millage supports the budget of $5.8 million of projected revenue for fiscal year 2025. This public hearing is being conducted, and I will be requesting that the resolution to adopt the proposed millage be approved in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? I know we've had it presented to us now for the time, so we've gotten a lot of questions out. Want to say we appreciate you and staff getting back to us with answers around the questions that we had but any additional questions or comments for city manager or staff before we open it up for comment? Hearing none, we will now open it for public comment. As I like to say, if we have any public comment on the millage rate, we just ask anybody to come up. If there is more than one person, we'd ask that they line up. If no one comes, we usually leave it open for about 2 minutes, and then we move on. So as of now, it is open to the public who wants to make comment on the proposed 2024 millage rate. And Devani, we just want to double check if there's anyone online that raises their hand or has comment. We want to make that available to them as well. With the public hearing for the proposed 2024 millage rate is now closed. Additional comment? Thank you, City Manager. We will now move on to public comment. We have one speaker that has signed up, Mr. Hillary.
First of all, I don't wanna waste a whole bunch of time, y'all wasting your time and I'm here behind discrimination in my view. All you do is hear me out and then answer a question for me in here. 3 years in a row without lights, behind windstorms and stuff like that. But the Adams family, where windstorms and all that only attacking our neighborhood. All around us got lights. But we, from Stonewall to Tillman, without lights and go without lights all night. Nobody coming to our rescue to help us. All right, let me start. I started investigating this thing here last year. Last year the windstorm came through, nothing but wind. We lost our lights. I go all night without lights and nothing like that. Then they send a truck the next day. They send a car, and the next day we got lights. All right. I ride around the neighborhood, see if anybody breaks up. Nobody's there. All right. Last September, we lost the lights at 4 o'clock. Nothing going on. No rain, no nothing. We lost the lights at 4 o'clock. They text me. One time I used to turn in all this stuff here, but the technology came in when they put the new posters up. All right. I explained to you what a bus is where you can understand it. Because I used to do this at the powerhouse in Putnam. I was that for 20 years. I was doing that. I used to make electricity, distribute it out. When Georgia come through there, they had to come through. All right? On my shift. So I know what I'm talking about, okay? And I break it down where you can understand. But here's what it is. All right, last year twice it happened. The windstorm came through, lights go out, nobody coming to try and fix it. The next day in the truck, then a contractor, they fix it. All right. Second time, like I said, nothing going on. It goes down. Then I'm riding around, looking around, and got no lights. The next day, they text me. I used to talk to somebody when them transformers were messing up and all that. I used to talk to somebody. They don't talk to me anymore because technology. They know that stuff messing up because they get readings off of it. All right. So they know going bad. And they know where it's at. They don't need me no more to tell them where it's at. But here's the point. Like I said, nobody is trying to fix this stuff. All right? Every place else got lights all around us. Anyway, all around us got lights, all except from Tillman to Stonewall. This is 4 times. All right, the last one just went going on just then. I got up. I went on 11 o'clock. I went out there and started around trying to see what's going on. There was a power truck on G. So I go back home. I say, well, at least they trying to find the problem this time. Well, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock that night, they still ain't got lights on. I go out, ride around again. Nobody's there trying to fix it. That power truck gone. If I'd known what I'd known, I would have got the number and everything to prove that somebody was there. All right, go home. That morning, I go ride by Georgia Power, graveyard dead. Nobody doing nothing. All right, 8 o'clock that morning, contractors came on G Street, started working on the power line. 4 trucks right there on Georgia Power, 4 Georgia Power trucks right there in Willard, lifting the cable. They didn't lose their lights. We the only ones without light. 8 o'clock that, they in there lifting the cable. Nobody trying to fix our, got our lights back later on that night. Later on that day, around about 1, 2 o'clock. Like I said, nobody is coming to our rescue in our neighborhood. Why? And that's the problem. That's the problem I got with this here. Like I said, I feel like it's discrimination. Why? Because they got the technology, they know what's going on, but still they don't send nobody. Is this a regular thing now? Right now, to break it down to you, a bus. Our bus used to run from Centennial Plaza to my house. Once you leave that bus on them old telegram posts, everything went down. And it did that on the basis for what's going on. Everything went down, but it don't have to do that no more because now, just like the house, your house breaker, you got the bus coming in. Everything is breakers. You'll lose a breaker, but you don't lose everything. And that's what's going on right now. From sitting in the house, from sitting in there to my house, got breakers. And I'll be the last thing on that breaker. At the bottom of that breaker, that's Stonewall and Tillman. The last thing on that breaker. Nobody's coming to fix it. But still, you got You got trucks right there 8 o'clock in the morning, working on cable where it got electricity, and you ain't fixing the ones that ain't got it. That's discrimination. And like I say, I know this out of your diction and all that, but you still asking what? Why? Why wasn't nobody coming to ask you 4 times in a row, 3 years in a row? Why ain't somebody coming to our rescue? They used to do it when the whole bus go down. Now the bus don't go down, you pick and choose who you gonna do it for. That's the problem I got. And the problem I want the question to be answered. Why can't somebody answer that? Nobody coming to our rescue. And like I said, without the power, you ain't got no electric, you ain't got no air conditioning either. So how you gonna sleep? Huh? Like I said, that's the part I'm talking about. What's that, like you said in that, it's for all. Everybody around us got lights. Why do I have to keep going down 4 years, 4 times in a row, 3 years in a row, and nobody coming to our rescue? That's the question I got.
Ms. Hillary, I'd like to thank you for that information. It is our normal practice, obviously, not to respond, but I do want to give Commissioner Roll a chance to respond, because when we got your request, we went ahead as a, and Commissioner Roll led this and reached out to Georgia Power. So I know she had a conversation with them. We'll get you some written information, but also continue to ask those questions. So Commissioner.
How often do you reach out to Georgia Power?
Used to talk to them all the time when before the new power line. Why? Because them times when they get ready to go, they make no. And I used to report it to them and tell them everything. They even text me. One time, everything went on in our neighborhood, they text me. And then I stay for her. And like I said, they know my phone. They know me. When they used to talk to me, they don't talk to me no more. They do is put the machine on. I can't talk to nobody no. Why they don't need me? Because the technology, they know where the problem is now. And they know when it was going, because the readings, they give all readings. I used to do that to pump me. Like I said, they come through me to come to that pump me. And so they ain't gonna sit up there and they send a contractor instead of Georgia. But like I say, Georgia Power was up 8 o'clock in Wizard Park. Why they put, and I rode through there 5 o'clock that morning, nobody moving around, nothing going on.
Okay,
So like I said, from now on, the thing is, with you doing business hours, or are we gonna get you when, like you used to do, work 24/7 to get them lights back on?
Okay, so like Mayor said, so it is out of our, being that it's a Georgia Power issue, but I did speak to a supervisor today, and he told me to get your name and number, and that he would contact you and you would talk about it, so.
Maybe they already know who I am, because like I said, but anyway, I could do that.
Okay, but no, I have it. I have the 230 number. That's fine. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hillary. Yes, sir. Ms. Hillary, we understand. We're gonna get on it, make sure they get into. Yes, sir. We will now move on to recognitions, presentations, and award. And we have a presentation from our Coastal Street Soccer partners. We would ask them to come to the front.
Good evening to everyone. I'm joined up here tonight with our parent engagement for our U19 girls program. Ms. Vanessa's been in the role for probably almost 20 years as well. And then Coach Otis, who's a volunteer as well as our board chair. This is our 20th year that we are celebrating. And throughout this year, we want to make sure that we take the time to recognize those that have played a critical role in helping us to be successful, being able to give us that advice and guidance, and at times when we were struggling, to be able to live up as well to encourage us to continue down this path. And we just make sure that we show that appreciation throughout this year with doing that. And so with that being said, tonight we would like to present Community Heroes Award to Miss and Commissioner Felicia Harris. So, and it reads, thank you for your service and dedication to our community, because it's definitely your service and your efforts extend beyond COS. And we as not only as COS, but as citizens of Brunswick, so want you to know that we appreciate everything that you do to continue to promote and provide a service to us as citizens.
We want to make sure we get you hold on 1 second, Mayor, probably get a picture. Yeah, if you all come back here, we can all stand up and get behind. Okay. I want to uh I want to give each of us a chance to say something, but I want to start off. If Sean, you could come back to the front. For 20 years now, uh, you have shown us what commitment to community looks like. You've showed us what commitment to children has looked like. You showed us what commitment to partnership has looked like. And your 20 years of service to our community can never be repeated. But even more so, the 20 years of impact that you have on children that will go around this nation and take your brand of citizenship, take your brand of grace and mercy, and take your brand of love across this nation and across this world in service not only in education, in service to our nation, in service to sports, and really in service to humanity. And for that, we as a commission and we as a city want to present you with a plaque and a key to the. Before we take the ceremonial picture, I'll give our commissioners time to say something. We want to make sure we hit on the sis at the end. And so we'll start here at the end with Lance and maybe move.
Yeah, congratulations, Sean, and thank you for all your hard work. I've had a chance to be out there on food baskets with you the day before Thanksgiving and seeing those kids out there on the field and just the impact that you have, as the mayor said, will continue to resonate in our communities.
And I think I probably hadn't been around you as long as Kendra has, but almost as long as Kendra has. And I remember when you were boys club and Kendra and them were still in high school. When you were with the boys club and you started working with the boys club, that was my first time meeting because we wanted to have bragging rights on the city beating the boys and girls club, boys and girls club beating the city. And so from there, you branched off into dealing with us as young adults and you became our coach. Remember that? Our Time was your brand at that time. And we were sporting your Our brand and we were playing somewhat semi pro ball locally and all over the different counties. And I saw and I learned your heart at that time. I learned your heart for not just the children, but the entire community. And then as I watched you and the challenges that you went through trying to build Coastal and the naysayers that came along, but you still push, still grind because you realize that the goal was bigger than you. And even so, though sometimes you felt a little discouraged. Still continued because it was bigger than you. The dream was bigger than you. And so now I reflect back with you 20 years ago and how you still have that same zest, zeal, and fire, and you go at it hard, everything, and you're not looking for the financial reward. You should get it because of the time and the blood and sweat and tears that you put into your program. You are due that. You are due that. You put that time in with those children and you grow the children in this community, a class of kids, a category of kids that nobody else would deal with, nobody else thought had a chance or even wanted to have that chance. You took that time, and the success of your program speaks for itself abundantly. College graduates all the way through to the end. You're not just developing an athlete, you're developing a holistic person. You don't just stop with the child that participates in your program. You deal with the entirety and the success of that entire family. And so as you build Coastal, you build a child at a time, you build one family at a time, you build this community. And so I have the utmost respect for you. There's nothing that I won't do for Sean Williams. There's nothing I won't do for you because you have demonstrated that you are man and you are that person. God bless you. Continued success be upon you.
Mr. Williams, I just want to say congratulations. Mayor Pro Tem said a mouthful for everybody, but seriously, she was right on point. Your dedication, your commitment to our community is so outstanding, and God bless you and keep on striving.
I won't be as long, but Sean knows that I'm proud of 20 years. I wish he would have started earlier because then I could have been a part of the program, but I already graduated high school. My brother is the epitome of a leader. I look up to him. My father would just, he puts others before himself, puts other people's children before his own, because we know that, sometimes people just have like what we have in our circle of family and growing up and people to look up to. So I just thank you for everything. Just, this has been an amazing program for 20 years. That's free. Free. Okay, so if everyone ever question of, I don't have the money for my child to be a part of the program, it is free. It's more than just soccer. Like Mayor Pro Tem say, we are COS, Coastal Outreach Soccer, we're sending kids to college, not only just colleges, historically Black colleges and universities, working with, what is it, 4 colleges? We have Albany State, Talladega, Allen, Fisk. How did I forget Fisk? Okay. So just, if you don't know anything about what Sean is doing with Coastal Outreach Soccer, follow the Facebook page, Instagram page, the website. We're celebrating all year until August 25. So join in the celebration. So once again, I'm proud of you and thank you so much.
Speech.
Uh, I just would want to say that, again, this is, for me, I love the city. And I mean, that's just very, just everything is just driven by that. And wanting to see every person in our community have an opportunity to realize their dreams and to pursue passion, and understanding that when we lift one up, we lift everyone up. And that's just been the drive force behind it, and have been blessed along the way to have some people alongside me with doing this. I mean, um, And the partnerships are just been enormous, and it cannot echo just how much the city has and the community has poured into this program in order for us to do the things that we are capable of doing. And we're looking forward to like we always say, the transition from us to our alums that are definitely will a lot of great things that with this program, and we're looking forward to supporting them and providing them the opportunity to grow COS beyond what we have been capable of growing. And again, thank you to everyone. Yeah, you definitely got me tonight, Carl. Appreciate it.
Amazing. Mr. and Mrs. Muhammad, thank y'all for your service to the community. Thank you for all that you've done. And thank you for your continued advocacy for Albany Street, the Albany Street corridor, ensuring that we as a city stay focused on that area and ensuring we are replenishing not only our infrastructure, but growing our people. And you all are doing that every day. Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Muhammad. And MPA president. You got so many jobs. You working everywhere. Thank you so much. We will now move on to an update from our city engineer and public works director Albertson to provide a special purpose option sales tax update or SPLOST update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Give you a quick date on the SPLOST 22 and where we are and some of the progress that we're making with that. And I'll try to share my screen here. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're gonna talk mainly tonight about these, the 10 categories here. Primarily because these are the 10 that my Department of Engineering and Public Works is most involved with. We'll touch on, there are a couple of other categories in the SPLOST, IT and, public safety, and we'll touch those kind of at the end, but most of the project or the update will be focused on the $31 million that is spread over these 10 categories here. So, we will start with storm drainage. That, our largest, allocation is $11.5 million allocated to storm drainage in this SPLOST. Before we started the SPLOST, at the end of our last SPLOST, we went out and we designed, or started design of 4 projects: Macon Talmadge, Albany Street, Riverside Drainage, and Wildwood Ditch. We're still finishing up a couple of those, but Macon Talmadge has been designed. It's been constructed. It's been built. We're very pleased with the results over there. I think it's a very successful project at a cost of just under $1.5 million to this SPLOST. Total price $3 million, but 1.5 for this project. Albany Street, we're working on getting that project underway. In fact, contracts were just delivered to the clerk's office today for their signature. We've got a couple of grants to put with it, but that project is going to be a cost of approximately $1.5 million to the SPLOST. The other 2 that we're working on are the Riverside project, estimated cost of $2.5 million. That one's currently in the permitting stage in our coastal marshlands permit for some drainage structures. And then the Wildwood Ditch is the 4th one on the list. Cost about $3 million, and we've scheduled that one or kind of programmed that one for FY '29. So feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions as we're going through here. Next category and our next largest allocation is roadways. We're at $8 million allocated there. Right now we're working on the Altama Avenue resurfacing and signalization project. That is resurfacing of Altama from R Street all the way to the Simmons and new signals at all the intersections in there. We're working on some easements, finalizing some easements to get that project out to bid later this fall and get that project underway at a cost of $3.5 million. The next one we programmed to look at is Parkwood Avenue, resurface pedestrian improvements. As you know, Parkwood's the main corridor to the hospital there. It's getting in pretty rough shape, and we've had a lot of trouble recently with pedestrian crossings from their employees parked over into the hospital. So we want to look at getting those pedestrians across that road safer. We resurface that roadway, so we'll be looking at that one. Then we also have Norwood Street resurfacing on the list. Again, that one's kind of like the Wildwood programmed out towards the later years of the SPLOST. And then our one is the Bay Street, or the Bay and Newcastle roundabout. It's currently in the design phase. It's because it's in the GDOT right away. We're having to go through the GDOT design process, which can be a lengthy process, but we're hoping that one is ready to go to construction in early 2026. Right now, the estimated cost of that is just over $3 million. Next category is sidewalks. We've designated $1.1 million for sidewalks. We have started in this first year or so of SPLOST, have started just working some repairs at some of our worst areas, some areas that we've gotten complaints on, and trying to hit some of those areas and get those cleaned up and remove some liabilities. I show we've spent a cost of about $70,000 towards that right now. That's probably closer to $100,000 now in the couple of weeks I've put this presentation together. Tim's done a good bit of work in the last couple of weeks on some areas. But then one project that we also have programmed under this is the 4th Street sidewalk. We discussed that one a lot. 4th Street from Altama going west to Selden Park. Looking at that sidewalk along there, we've estimated as about $500,000 for that project. So we want to look at grant funding to try to see if there's some opportunity for some other funding to stretch our money out, but this is a project we definitely want to move forward with. Next category is building improvements. Set aside $900,000 for building improvements. So far, we've spent $60,000 at City Hall on put a new roof on there, and we put a liner inside one downspouts that drains water off that roof down to the street. Try to, in an attempt to reduce some of the drainage issues and the leaking in that building. The other project that we're working currently is Ritz Theater HVAC replacement, repair, or replacing the air conditioning units in the Ritz. We've set aside $200,000 there. We're hopeful that project comes in a little bit under that, but it's going to be an expensive project. But that one should be getting underway later this fall.
Are there multiple units at the Ritz, or is it one or splits? Or?
I think it's one condenser unit, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe 2 air handlers inside, but don't quote me on that.
And is that just the first floor, or is that all floors?
That's for the theater.
The
theater
theater.
building.
Just gotcha.
Another category that we have is the trails and boardwalks category. We put aside $3.5 million there.
Director, can I go back real quick?
Sure.
Sorry. Was there an estimate taken for what it would be to have a unit handle the whole building? I just think about, as we obviously going to expand to the second floor of the Ritz eventually. Not trying to say it happens quick, but you want to. I think that's a usable space. And if we're all, I just don't know if it's expensive to split those projects up. That we look at it, what it would look like for a singular project for the entirety of the building, or do we not have those estimates? We just estimate kind of the theater.
Mhm. We've just looked at the theater so far. I know we've discussed looking at, redevelopment of those other apartment areas and those other floors of the Ritz. And, but as far as this project, we did not look to any kind of HVAC or any kind of
Okay.
air handling unit there.
And
for
you
that.
said it
And-
was right now you thought about at 200, estimated at 200. You're hoping to get it under that.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Like I said, trails and boardwalks, we've got $3.5 million there. One project that we're, expecting to get kicked off in the next few weeks is the, MLK Alabama bicycle corridor in that, in the right of way of MLK there. We just approved that a couple of weeks ago. And, it's about $225,000. Work should start on that in the next couple of weeks. And should wind up certainly by the end of the year there. And then we're looking at a larger project, possibly a joint project with the Glenn County, advancing that corridor on north from Gloucester up to College and up to the city limits. And if we're partnering with the county, maybe even on out to Fletsy. And that would become the primary bicycle pedestrian corridor through the city and most likely become the destination of the East Coast Greenway. But like I said, we're looking at our options with the county on there and looking at several funding options there too. There's some federal funding out that we can take advantage of to push our money further. And then the third project that we have there is the Glen Avenue Link Trail, that kind of known as the Boardwalk Trail. You know, we kind of put that one on hold. It was out there, designed out there in the marsh, offshore a little bit near those power poles, and costs got pretty large there, so we decided to back off of that. And so still looking at options and alternative alignments there closer to the Highway 17. And I was just talking with a consultant today, kind of trying to get an update from them, see where we are on that. But there's some options there, but trying to reduce cost and stretch our money out more there.
Mr. Albertson, I have a question, and because I'm newly on the commission, can you tell me where's the history about the start or the thought process of having this trail boardwalk on Highway 70?
The thought process of having it alone.
Or just having one? Why was it designated? I want one on 17, blah, blah, blah. Where did it come from?
Well,
The concept, the idea that we need one.
it was started before I got here, so that's where it originated. When I got here, there was a trail that was constructed from the bridge to 4th Avenue. And then they, as I started, there was a project that was being initiated from, I think, Coffin, moving through the park down to the dog park. Then, you know, the obvious next step was to connect those. And then so there we were left with a gap sort of between that trail extended from the bridge all the way to Gloucester Street. And then sort of a gap from there to the St. Simon's Causeway. So then that was sort of the reasoning behind this trail, was to make that link, that connection from Gloucester to St. Simon's. So that would give you a consistent trail or a continuous trail from the City Lanier Bridge all the way to the Causeway and then on Island. But to answer your question, who
No, I mean,
decided we
that's
need a
fine
trail on
for-
17? I
oh,
don't know.
well,
That was before me.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Another category that we have in there is some public works equipment. Some of this money that's already been spent, we've purchased a flatbed dump truck for about We have put up a new equipment storage barn. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of new equipment purchased over the last few years. So we want that out of the weather and out of the elements. So we've erected a storage barn. We're also working on an equipment wash station to clean our equipment and to keep it cleaner and operable. We're working on a couple of crew trucks that were pulled out of the general fund budget that we're going to purchase under this SPOS. And then our two big ticket items that we want to purchase with that are a new dump truck, one of these full-size dump trucks, and a new front end loader. So those will be a couple of years down the road as our funding accumulates. Other categories are parks and historic fairs and the cemetery. And these are all separate categories. Ross Park, we've put $4.5 million aside for Mary Ross Park. We just completed the phase 2 improvements there, which are the entranceway to the park at the end of Gloucester Street, with the new sign, the new arch sign there, continuation of the plaza there. We spent just over $800,000 there, and then we're kind of discussing about the next steps with the park and kind of what we want to be, what kind of event space or recreation space we want that to be, and then, once that decided, we'll move forward there. We've got $500,000 for historic squares. So far, we spent about $15,000 on some boundary surveys, and that was mainly to make sure you have good boundaries, good outlines of the property, so that Mr. Spencer, Jerry Spencer, can follow up with landscape designs for the different squares, doing that at no charge to the city. And then we'll use that and have those shovel-ready to go after an outdoor stewardship grant. And we'll use part money as the match for that grant. I'm sure there's a 20% match to that grant. So the exact amount will depend on the amount that we're granted. So we want to use a lot of this money for that. Another category we have is cemeteries with $150,000. We don't have any large wholesale projects designated for the cemetery. We'll use some of this for like some of the historic fencing and repairs at Oak Grove and the two Palmetto and Greenwood along Cecil Street out there, bringing those fences and that back up to its original condition. And then another category is other parks. I think it's listed as Palmetto, Orange, and small parks maybe, but one of the projects that we use money for is Orange Square. We spent about $350,000 so far on Orange Square, but we'll be getting back. We filed the reimbursement for the Land Water Conservation Fund grant. We get about $185,000 back from them. So that will leave us at $170,000 spent out of that. It'll leave us just over $300,000 remaining to go towards parks and some improvements in other parks around town.
I did have a question.
Sure.
When it comes to the cemeteries, it might be a Regina question. As far as signage, like nicer signage and just the green sign that says like Greenwood, like maybe something nice like Mary Ross, and probably have like some nice like lamps. Those.
We can certainly look at that. That's not a bad idea. And I say we don't have any wholesale projects. We've kind of talked about an informational kiosk, kind of a little plaza there.
Yes.
Maybe a covered area where people, visitors to the center, family members could come and have maps there, maybe even
Right.
electronic, where they could name and find a
Awesome, yeah.
location of a loved one. So we do have that in mind. We haven't gotten into working through the details of that yet, but some signage, we'll certainly put that on the list and look at that as well.
And then the same thing with Palmetto Square. Like I guess we could talk about the improvements of that part, as well as signage, so it can all of our city parks can be.
We are,
Updated.
Tim is working on some signage. I know he's having some made right now to get our signs updated and a lot
Right.
more consistent look throughout the parks. But, any of those, like if we want to create mock signs or something a little more elaborate like the Mary Ross Park, we sure can, but.
And then I'll go back to one thing. I didn't see it. So on L and Tillman, there isn't a crosswalk, but there's one on L Bartow. I say that because on L and Tillman, there are a lot of with parents walking their kids to Bros Millet, and it's no crosswalk or a croc as it has on Bartow. So I think that will be something to look into.
Okay. Okay.
Just because I see them sometimes, you're chancing, right? You run across the street to make sure, but that would be good to have it because people are walking to school. And then also entering into Magnolia Park on Altama, that crosswalk doesn't either. And you have students that are walking from Brunswick Commons to Brunswick School as well. So what they have to do is walk all the way down to the college and then cross on that crosswalk instead of being able to walk just directly up the street by Five Star Bank.
At that intersection is gonna get included as part of the Altama project. So
Okay.
that signal will be completely redone, traffic signals, pedestrian signals and everything. We're also going to be building a sidewalk from Altama to, is it Wildwood, right there at the four-way, Woodland, at the four-way stop there. In fact, I was talking to Tim the other day. I think he's gonna go ahead and build most of the sidewalk that he can until right there at Altama, that signal that's gonna get relocated. But, so that is in the works there.
Carol, this is one more question. Traffic at Altama and Terra Lane, now will it be less than 3 minutes? Because it takes 3 minutes for that light changes.
It will be, yes, those signals will be, there'll be loop vectors in there, but they'll be the most modern, the most current software is out there. They'll be, programmed to be as efficient as possible and coordinated as much as we can with other signals on that route. So you'll notice a significant improvement when we get that in. This is just a slide of a spreadsheet that we put together kind of as we start SPLOST. And we'll be glad to share this copy of this or go over this in more detail if any of y'all want, but kind of lines out our projects over the several years of collection of the SPLOST. I think this goes all the way out to maybe FY 29. So we've got a few years of the SPLOST left, and of course some of our money is not going to roll in there till the end. So some of our projects are program that's further out. One of the questions we get a lot when we're talking about these projects from citizens or whatever, they say, well, you've got SPLOST money. Why can't you just go do that project? We don't hold the SPLOST money right now. So, so this is just kind of the sheet that we're working off of to kind of program our projects and track along. I mentioned a couple of other categories that are sort of outside my department, I guess. One of those is public safety. For this current year, there's just over $500,000 dedicated for public safety and equipment. Spent almost 300 on police vehicles, a payment on a new fire truck, $2,000 payment on a new fire truck, and then a public safety facility assessment study for $75,000. Couple other categories. We mentioned the Ritz Theater and the air system replacement there, but then also one category in the IT department, looking at integrated software for $350,000 to help replace the New World accounting software that we have. Something more, I guess, more modern, more up to date for that. This is similar spreadsheet for those other projects. You can see we mentioned police vehicles, fire vehicles. The Ritz is there. We do have other money. We're asking about the AC unit. There's money projected over the next few years for that, as we'll get into looking at some of that redevelopment of those other units and other floors in that building. And then Harold and the Roosevelt Lawrence. center, there's, the $2.7 allocated there to go through those projects. So that's it for the update. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
So the, integrated software for the county software is coming out of Splash
Yes, ma'am.
money? In which category is it?
That comes from the integrated software. Is that the category?
No, so I guess, I mean, Richard, no, I'm not looking at the spreadsheet, but I'm talking about the project categories that I'm just trying to figure out which category, because you said we have 11 categories?
Yes, ma'am. That's one of those that it's not listed there because I didn't include that one because my department's not real directly related to that. So, Ms. McDaniel and the other department heads are managing that more closely than me.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
I would just echo, and the reason I asked a question about the writs and echo what the mayor brought up, I think it may be well before we purchase that new AC to think about, or at least have some sort of holistic, especially since we budgeted more improvements for the writs, over the next 3 years to think about, again, maybe this doing the theater, make and expand that system or do something, or at least make sure that if we install this $200 system, it doesn't get in the way of additional units that we may need to put on, all that kind of.
Well, we'll speak with the contractor about that. I'm kind of thinking that those are really kind of completely separate units. I don't think one will affect the other, but we'll confirm that. So yeah, I understand what you're saying about. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Quick comment, for me, for the Glen Avenue, link trail. When we had that conversation, in my brain, I kind of thought we had made a decision that the entirety of the project kind of ballooned into a place where we weren't comfortable kind of moving forward. So in this kind of conversation about what we do with these SPLOST stops, it didn't necessarily have to be poured into that specific project or what have you, as long as it lived in a certain bucket of things to maybe find another project that was more feasible or more affordable for us at the time. Am I correct in thinking that way about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I understand it,
Okay.
that as long as that money is used for a trail or a boardwalk
Inside
type
of that.
project,
Yep.
right.
Inside. Okay. I just wanted to double check there, because I think when we had that initial conversation, we wanted to have some discussions about where were other places, that we could spend that. The other space was a place that, Commissioner Roll brought up. As much as we can, you all are working internally as you all figure out what the plan is for upping signage. Please let us know that as early as possible. I think there are a lot of pocket parks around the city. I know one of the ones that comes to mind for me is McNeely Park, which is right on Altama. Used to have a sign there. Sign's totally gone. So I think there are a lot of pocket parks, especially in the internal neighborhoods to the city, that probably updated signage. So just as you guys build out a plan for that, share it with us, maybe able to share with you guys some spots that we're maybe not thinking about.
Okay.
Mayor, the plan right now was the signs that are there, kind of just making sure those are in place, updated. But we certainly want to make sure if there's some, if you all know of any, please send them and we'll continue to keep that list going until we accomplish all the parks, because there are a lot of places, if the sign's not there, of course, I'm not from here, Tim, who we're around, trying to find the places, but if the sign's not there already, then we probably won't be looking at that particular place.
Right.
But we will, if you all send that in information that we need signs, but we're trying to put them the way they were, and we've had a little bit of a difficulty with the actual construction of the sign. So I like is it wooden, most of them wooden signs that we have, but, some of them, we're trying to, keep them consistent with
Right.
what they were.
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I was just, and I'm telling the mayor about, have you all did an inventory of signage?
Not all of them. I asked for, again, what we were looking at, like the ones that are there and needing to be refurbished and, making sure those will, kind of put back into their original design. But we're looking at other ones such as, I don't know if all of like College Magnolia Park and all of those,
Yeah.
we're looking at those areas as well. But again, I mean, the places that you all know of that we need to include, please let us know.
Yeah, and because I would say that the identity of the individual communities, Habersham Park, Windsor Park, College Park, Magnolia Park.
Yeah, we're looking at all of
Okay.
those but it's just, I mean, again, if you know the ones that you think, make sure we know all the ones that you know.
Okay,
Okay.
get us one in Dixville too.
Dixville?
Yeah, it's a Dixville. We need a Dixville sign.
I mean, I need to know where, well, I actually saw that on the, thing, but yeah, I think that would be appropriate. We certainly would add to the
Just right
list.
across the street from Habersham. But there's a difference.
Yes, thank you.
The last thing that I have kind of has to deal with this as well. I think and this may not be for you, Director Albertson, this be us as a staff or together as a community. If we inventory of signs, but also an inventory of the parks owned by the city. At current, I think a lot of times there are certain footprints that we're not sure whether we own it, whether it was gifted to us, whether it was a personal person who just cleared the property and put a swing set there. And so to the highest degree that we can have an inventory of, these are the larger parcels of property that the city owns. These are the pocket parks that the city owns. Here because I know agreements, if we go far enough back, they were gifted to the city in perpetuity. If the use changes though, we have to give the land back. I'm not sure. So if we have some kind of
Yeah,
inventory of
There's a good inventory online, and we are trying to upgrade that so that, like Orange Park, since we put the splash pad amenity is actually online, but we haven't gotten all of that done. But we are working on identifying all the parks. There's a lot of them that are online. The only one that I know had some issues with is Johnston, because we don't have the ownership of that. But the city had done some work or something, so that one's still kind of on the air. But we'll look at that and make sure we have everything. But we want to also have online so that when people go and look at a park, they can know whether it has a pavilion, dog park, or, what it has in the parks.
perfect.
She mentioned Johnson Street. Are we get those things removed? I know the sign was removed, but
Yeah, I had talked with Brian and, we'll final that and see what we need to do to.
okay, because apparently we still maintain it. It is clean and there's a porta potty in the yard. On the
Right.
parcel?
And so, yes, when I talked, he was going to check into the ownership and confirm everything before we do that, but we haven't forgot that. So,
All
yes,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions? With that, thank you so much, Director Albertson.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. We'll now move on to items to consider for approval. Approval of August 2024 regular scheduled meeting minutes and August 13th, 2024 public hearings. Any addendums or changes? Hearing, we'll open it for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the regular scheduled meeting minutes for August the 7th, 24, as well as the public hearing for August the 13th, 2024.
Here-
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We'll now move on to number 6, approval of resolution number 2024-16, adoption of Glenn County Hazard Mitigation Plan update, Director Albertson.
Okay, like you said, this is, a resolution to adopt the hazard mitigation plan. Probably most of you are familiar with the hazard mitigation plan and kind of what it involves. It's a plan produced or coordinated in partnership with the city, the county, Jekyll Island, kind of 3 municipalities, if you will, here in Glenn County. The purpose of the plan, kind of taken from the plan, is to life, promote safety, and preserve property, by reducing the potential for damages and economic losses, from natural or man-made hazards, to make the community safer, to qualify for grant funding for pre and post disaster environments, to help speed up the recovery and redevelopment process after a disaster, and to demonstrate a firm commitment to hazard mitigation principles, and then finally to comply with state and federal requirements for multi-hazard mitigation plans. So, from that you can see that there's several reasons that we need to have that in place, from just organization, cooperation with the county and intergovernmental, and then safety, but then also for compliance and funding economic needs. One of the reasons that is most directly affects my department right now is that this, having the hazard mitigation plan in place and adopted by the city, is CRS points, community rating system points. We're going through our 5-year renewal of the community rating system, and there are points available for adopting this mitigation plan. And then the more points, the better your score. The better your score, the more of a discount that your community residents get on their flood insurance. So, having this in place helps the community wide on that economic side for to keep for their flood insurance. Sorry. But I also have Alec Eaton here. He was, of course, more with the environmental management side, and he can tell you some more benefits and reasons that we need to have that plan in place.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Garrett covered a lot of the major topics that are kind of self-explanatory in the state of working together with the county and Jekyll Island, who have already adopted and approved this plan. This is a joint operation in which they do a threat analysis of the entire community, and they're able to submit that to FEMA for wired 5-year plan updates to make sure that we're in compliance of what we're going to be doing as far as any hazards that could affect us, man-made, natural, that pose a threat to our community, and how we have plans in place to handle that before, during, and after. Helps also develop our disaster recovery rebuilding plan, our DRRP, which is another thing down the line that we can step into that also helps our community and our businesses on how we build back after major disasters. It keeps us in line in state statute that this is a required document to have for any reimbursements that we apply for through the state and federal government. So this is something that does be updated, does have to be signed and approved to make sure that we can receive those back to help build back our community after major disasters come forward. It helps with several other smaller grants throughout the state for infrastructure, brick grants, for things like generators. More options are available, and this is one of the key documents that we submit to them to say, hey, we're in compliance. Here's our plan. This is in line with what our projected mitigation plans are, and then get approval from that.
Any questions or comments?
Can you highlight, Alec, just so this is an update to the plan, is that correct?
Yeah, this is, so every 5 years it has to be updated and renewed.
Okay.
So we get a team together, the county, takes the lead on it, has to go through them, but it represents the city and Jekyll Island. They submit it to FEMA to make sure that everything is aligned for
Mhm.
approval. Once FEMA approves, sends it back to us for final signature, goes from there.
I get you. So that's why it's 20 through 28 and the
Mhm.
document says 23. I got you.
Yep.
Right. Cool.
Any other questions or comments? The only question I have, Alec, this may be for you. How much work in this hazard mitigation plan goes into thinking about the businesses that are contiguous to the city where we've had some kind of issue? I know we had obviously a fire at the Pinot site. We've had, I think, 2 fires at the wood pellet containers over at the port. Um, this mitigation plan take potential issues at those foot into consideration?
Yes, a lot of extensive work goes into that. A lot of the tier 2 ratings for industrial sites have to go into this plan. Past events, so the Panova fire, anything that could cause any kind of massive damage or fires like that, that would be potential harm to us, gets included into the analysis portion of it. And then there's plans in for that. So when it's like industrial chemical fires, flooding, business areas that are affected, we take historical data that has happened, make sure that's implemented in the plan, base that off of what we've seen in the past.
And as you read it, or things that you've been in, do you believe that um, enough work has been in this plan to where we have, I think, fail safes for possible events future? What I think about most immediately is that we ran out of water on the Panova footprint as our fire department was trying to put that fire out. I think per regulation, they were supposed to kind of have enough water on that foot to handle whatever kind of event that could happen. That wasn't the case. So I think for us, I just want to ensure this hazard mitigation plan not only has taken that into account. I know we've gotten a lot of different things kind of in our arsenals at the moment. But I just want to make sure those things were taken into account to make sure we're ready for those.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all that stuff gets updated. And that's the benefit of the partnership with our EMAs.
Mhm.
We take all the things that we've done from events, apply that, catalog that, and we keep submitting that and update this annually.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
I move that we approve resolution 2024-16 authorizing the adoption of the updated Glenn County Hazard Mitigation Plan 23 through 2028.
Here the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing the motion passes. Thank you all. We'll now move on. Consider of amendment number 19 of the City of Brunswick Defined Benefit Pension Plan. City Manager McDuffie.
Thank you again. This is an amendment to the pension plan that was at the behest of the commission. It basically allows the commission the authority to appoint a temporary trustee to serve in the event that the trustees, which include myself, the finance director, and the HR director, if there is a vacancy in any one of those areas. The amendment just that the city commission has the authority to appoint someone temporary to take that role.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to motion that we approve the amendment number 19 of the City of Brunswick Defined Benefit Pension Plan as presented.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Now move on to number 8. Consider approval of resolution number 202415, setting of the 2024 millage rate. City Manager McDuffie.
Yes, thank you again. This resolution, of course, is in conjunction with the presentation earlier for the public hearing, setting the millage for the 2025, tax year 2024 at 13.19 for the city, which is consistent with what was approved in the F-25 budget.
Having heard the presentation, as was having 3 public hearings and it being open for comment, is there any final questions or comments before? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2024 ad valorem tax millage rate resolution.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second? Hearing the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to number 9, consider approval of enterprise zone incentives for 1420 Newcastle Street, Director Hill. I know we've had some time to spend with this. Thank you for the time for us to be able to work on it as a commission. I know you did some presenting and answered some questions for us, so thank you to you and your staff.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So here we are looking at enterprise zone incentives. I know this is the first time some of you have seen these. This is an incentive that the city initiated back in 2014. There are several different areas where enterprise zones are available. This is the Central Business District. That's the downtown area. We probably should change that name sometime. But we also have Norwich Street, Altama, which is around Parkwood, and then the Glen Avenue. So this particular application is for the old Brunswick Fine Building on Newcastle Street. It used to be that blue building next to Ned Cash Jewelers. It's now painted and looks a whole lot better. Avalon Properties has grown their space at the corner of Gloucester and Newcastle, and they have purchased this building. They are renovating it to have their office space and a unit for residential unit in it. The left side where the Blue Cottage was and is now the other boutique, that's staying as it is. That will still be a retail space. The enterprise zone resolution allows the commission to waive fees and other fees in addition to abating city property tax for a period of up to 10 years. And the schedule, the basic schedule for the 10-year period is spelled out in the resolution, but the commission has the ability to adjust that as they see fit. And the applicant is here. If you have any questions or any other questions?
Thank you for that, Matthew. Any questions or comments from the commission? Any?
I think we talked about it. The construction work is completed or no?
It's in process.
It's in process.
Yes.
And exactly how long has Avalon Properties been in business operating in Brunswick?
I would hazard a guess, but he'll know for sure. Good evening.
Good evening.
So we've been Russell Street.
Have you, so basically, you won't hire the new people till the new headquarters is completed? Or, because I noticed the application, you said you was gonna hire 15 more people?
Yes, I'm planning to hire. Just plan for it.
And even though he mentioned about the living space, I guess that's a rental property. Well, no, that's okay. Is it 1-bedroom flat or
It'll be a
studio? That's all. I think that's all I have. That's okay.
Any additional questions or comments for the business owner? Thank you so much. All right, we'll take these one at a time. So any questions or comments for Director Hill for 1420 Newcastle Street? Hearing none, we will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we waive the business license administration fees for the first year, and we allow a 3-year property tax abatement with 100% the first year, 60% the second year, and 20% the third year.
There is a motion on the table. First, do I hear a second?
Second.
Ask for clarification.
Yes.
Is it only the business license administration fee or all of the fees?
All the one that's total to $2,395. I apologize.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, the motion passes. I want to take a moment to thank Avalon Properties for making Brunswick your home for being since 2015, continuing to grow in our downtown corridor. Thank you for your leadership and all that you pour into the city. So we appreciate you.
Thank you.
With that, we will now move on to Enterprise Zone Incentive for 1617 Norwich Street. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So this is a similar application for 1617 Norwich Street, which was the Ken Plum's Auto Repair Shop, the 5 garage doors between the house and the pizza place. You may remember a couple of years ago, part of that building collapsed. The new owners, La Playa, have moved here from Athens. They have also purchased across the street where Dr. Diarmas had her office for many years. That has been converted into an Airbnb, which is separate from the other building. The auto repair garage will be converted into a food truck plaza with a bar in the existing building, and they're also working with the Department of Agriculture to put in a community kitchen, which would be available for use by others other than themselves. They will have 3 to 4 trucks permanently there that will be their food trucks, but they will also open it up on a daily basis to other food trucks in the community. So it'll be a nice little food truck with restrooms and a interior bar area. So we're really looking forward to that, starting to boost south end of Norwich Street. So they have applied for waiving of the fees and the property taxes. They were here at the last minute meeting. I thought they were going to be here tonight, but they're not here yet. They're going to create 11 jobs at the facility in the first year. And the average pay is $20 an hour. They will be adding jobs as the project gets going and as it becomes more popular.
Thank you for that.
And they do have restaurant and food truck experience in Athens and in Pompano Beach, Florida.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we waive the business license administration fees for the first year of $2,395 and a 7-year property tax abatement with the first, second, and third year of 100%, 80% fourth year, 60% fifth year, 4% the 6th year, and on the seventh, 20%.
Second.
You get them?
100% for 3 years. And then each year going down. Year 4 is 80%, year 5, 60, year 6, 40, and year 7, 20.
Yes.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Hill.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to city attorney's items. Consider approval of municipal court judge service agreement. City Attorney Corey.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. By now, you're probably somewhat familiar with this services agreement as it's been on the agenda a couple times. I was finally able to sit down with our current acting chief judge is Jason Clark. Jason has been serving in that role since roughly the beginning of the year. But with the resignation of former Judge Christopher O'Donnell, we were trying to move him into a new role with getting new service agreements put in place. And we also are going to be seeking, once the chief judge's agreement is in place, to utilize the same template. Judge Pro Tems, he will be required to name 2 of those to serve in his absence. The only change from the initial time I presented this template to you is after some negotiations with Mr. Clark, Judge, he asked that we consider an increase from $2,125 a month to $3,000 a month. I did send this out to the commission. I believe I meant to do it last night. It was this morning, but I did. I also fielded questions I know from Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioner Atkinson Williams related to how the calculations were made, how terms are made, pro tems, and when they would be serving. I hope that I answered those questions to the satisfaction commission. I do think still a pretty good deal in consideration to some of the work that Judge Clark has been doing, as well as I hope he will end up naming Judge McIlvain as his pro tem. And in that email I sent out this morning, using this as a template, the Judge Pro Tem's template will be different. It will be in the purview or the discretion of the chief judge, to name their pro tems and then bring them forward to you all. And so there was a request there to match the hourly rate, what would calculated it based on how much time they're spent on the bench. That came out to roughly $187.50. A judge pro tem would typically serve in a role of just covering a single calendar. So there'd be a calendar morning. Typically we have 4 calendars a month, arraignments in the morning, in the afternoon. A separate one would be arraignments in the morning with code enforcement and demolitions in the afternoon. So a typical term would be 3 to 4 hours. Taking that into consideration, pro tem, if they were required to serve a term in the same chief judge's hourly rate, would be $750. And I think I included that all in my, or at least I attempted to include that all in my email. Then, of course, in the subsequent follow-up questions, I think that was discussed as well. So if you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer. As previously discussed, this is the EMA template for municipal court judge services agreement. It is required by law to be 2 years, and it is required by law to only be able to be terminated in accordance with provisions that you see in the contract. So those mirror state code.
Thank you for that. Questions or comments from the commission?
I think that he did answer the questions that I had regarding street standards and the cost that was being expended in that area and stuff. So I think that with all that information considered, I think that that's a good deal.
Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll open it for
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the municipal court judge service agreement as presented.
Second.
hearing the first and the, all those in favor show by the sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passed. We'll now move on to number 12, discussion, proposed redevelopment incentive ordinance. I know we've been working on this for a little while. since it is discussion, I always like to say this. I hope we can quickly provide the information. The additional quick comments or questions that we may have at this moment, present them. But since there is vote taken, let's try and get those across in email or conversation. So at City Attorney Corey.
I would probably encourage that because even now, I know John's not tonight, the portion of the ordinance that you have seen is related to the blight tax redevelopment incentive, whatever you want to call it, only as a part of a much larger rewrite for the chapter of holding housing and codes. I do know that Chris Gary with Economic Development has assisted. He's put together a flow chart for us. We're going to go over it tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I do think it might be beneficial that once we've all met and talked about it, getting that information to the city commission. I think it's a visual representation of how this process is likely to work. So if there are specific questions tonight, I'd be happy to answer them as it relates to the blight. Without maybe having that visualization, I might just suggest we continue the discussion and not seek to rush an approval at the second meeting, the first meeting in September, because I do think you may have questions as it relates to how the process flows.
That's okay. That being said, is there any questions that we have from a commission from the information that we received that city attorney be able to answer right now? If now, we can have chance to coalesce those questions and them over to he and John. Any questions or comments? Yep. We have no questions, so that'll end our discussion for number 12, and we will move on to number 13, St. Mark Towers Preservation LP Development Agency MOU or Memorandum of Understanding.
This was an attachment to my email earlier today. I think you've seen it in substantive form at the last commission meeting. There aren't significant changes to it, but there are changes that are reflective of some of the concerns voiced by staff and then discussed with the developer. City manager and I took that to them in a conference call. They were receptive. They accepted and provided additional response time to the city. So we would have additional terms in bonding to any request made to the city. We also slightly modified liability. That was I wanted to talk to them about. They were receptive of that change as well. We all included a portion, a requirement in there that they submit certain documentation related to remediation prior to the commencement of the work that is intended to be done with the grant funding. That was a requirement of the underlying, or I wouldn't say underlying, overall DCA requirements. So those are now included in there. We also just included a recital related to ensuring these funds as they're applied to those towers, that they continue to provide a full, should say affordable housing for low-income seniors at the standard held by the previous owners or better. That was a portion of language that we wanted to add in. Those are the changes that are made. Overall, this is I've previously stated this, that this is part of that grant funding, the $6 million that is coming down place. The windows at St. Mark's Towers, it's been earlier, we entered into an agreement with DCA as the city being the subrecipient of those grant funds. At the time, there was a different owner of St. Mark's Tower. During the course of going through procurement, the city initiated procurement, completed procurement within the guidelines as required by DCA. But during that time, St. Mark's sold to the new owner. They are identified in here as the developer, St. Mark's Towers Preservation P. And when they took over as new owners, they engaged the city in a discussion as to whether or not they would have some ability to, I don't want to say dictate, but observe and control the process, as they are the owners of the property and wanted some engagement process. The MOU maintains its status in the MOU as the go-between approving body for things that are coming from the city DCA and from DCA to the city. So the city will still see all pay requests. and the work that is supposed to have been completed before those pay requests are approved by the city. There's still an approval mechanism before they get to DCA for review and approval there. They will then come back and the city will remit payment to the contractor directly, not the developer or the owner. There is a component built into the MOU that allows, if the developer is, or if they wanted to move faster because the work is progressing in a manner that would be hope beneficial to the entirety of the project, the developer can fund certain funding to allow the contractor to continue their work while the process goes to DCA for approval and then back down. The city, in that case, review, consider, and take a look at all of the documentation from the developer, and if appropriate, reimburse the developer for the payments made to the contractor. So there also is a component of liability that the city in this situation. So this MOU will remove that liability from the city, placing it on the developer.
Thank you for your work on this. Questions or comments from the commission?
Couple of questions. I wasn't personally in the conversation for the meeting last couple of weeks ago when we first looked at this, but in kind of reviewing and having an opportunity to speak with Regina about it, but then reviewing the document and kind of looking at the overtone of the document, I did kind of have a concern with some of the verbiage, wherein it appears that the developer was kind of dictating the actions of the city and kind of telling the city, you know, what they were going to do and what the city was going to do. So I think Regina kind of eased my mind a little bit when we're talking about material changes. We were talking about time frames of correspondence. Last I saw, or I knew, with that we were controlling the $6 million and how that would be dispersed and those things of that nature. But at some of this, when they were talking about the 5 days and then they were talking about another 5 days, kind of controlling the narrative of that, but not including decisions that have to be made by DCA in this process. And how does that affect if DCA takes longer to make a decision regarding something or approval of something? We're pinned down to just an additional 5 days. And so those are just a couple of those that I kind of had concerns about. How are they taking some of these actions, and how was that addressed?
First, I don't think they have very limited ability to dictate anything.
Mm-hmm.
The funding documents, the scope work, the procurement that's gone out, and the directive ECA as it relates to this fund is limited in nature, the replacement of the windows. So there's not much for them to dictate because we had already procured and selected a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
They had agreed on a price, all of those things. They were dictating anything. It might be like the colors of the windows, paint, finishings, something like that. If they were to ever go outside of that scope and that is in this and wanted to change any portion of the scope of work that would be outside the replacement of the windows or some mold remediation, that cost is borne solely on the developer. There will be nothing. I mean, they own the property. So, I mean, if they wanted to put in new bike racks, by all means, if they want to retar or pave their parking lot, they can do that. It's just they're bearing the cost of all of that work. If they internally put in new blinds for the windows, again, all that cost will be borne by them. In the underlying subrecipient agreement, there is already timelines that the city must comply with. Okay. So one of the shortest timelines I was rather shy at is that when the city receives funding from DCA, after all those approvals have gone through, the city is required by our own agreement with DCA 3 business days. We have 3 business days to disperse that money. This one's a little bit unique in that there's a larger upfront payment to purchase those supplies because the cost of the windows are fixed, and that is one of the largest components of funding in the project. But overall, if, we have a certain time period, and it would be normal in most any contractual relationship to say, once a draw request is made, there's a time period in there that we need to act upon. And I think part of what, looking at some of the concerns that I saw is that doesn't mean approve or reject. I mean, that means that we respond and say, listen, we've got some issues with this. We need more clarification. We're going to put it through, have a question to DCA, and should not affect, that is a response with that time period. And so, there's not gonna be an automatic trigger. The only event where there'd be like an automatic trigger where it would bypass the city is if we just failed to respond entirely. And I don't think we're in the practice of doing that. I mean, if there is a request made to the city, no matter what, I mean, we need to have a response regardless if it's the first day or the 20th, which we're afforded. And so I think that the other side of that, so that's going up the 10 days plus another 10, we can seek clarification. All of those things are born into that. It may be more than 20. We have taken a look at something and said, I don't know about this. What's going on with this? We want to see we want to have questions. Tim Nelson would be observing the project. He goes back and seeks clarification. Eventually getting to DCA after the approval, if there is one, then DCA, however long it takes them, the contractor or the developer they're gonna have to eat that risk. I mean, DCA could take more time. They're not bound by any period of time in which they must respond. So they can take their time, but that's not going to be negatively impacting the city, because only when DCA has made their decision, it comes back to us, does it trigger another time period. And part of that, I want to again say that even if it does appear truncated, it's because we also have a contractor that we procured, that we selected, that we went through. So at the very end of all of this, he's going to be standing there saying, I sure hope the city does respond in 5 days, because I've got labor, I've got costs out there. And so I understand when I read some of the concerns about tight time periods, but for people also on the other end relying that if everything should be approved and they've done that, I got to pay their guys. And so I do think we built in additional time in which we should respond, but the same goes for that 5 days and then the additional 5-day term if we need it. Our response can be, again, we got it from DCA, have questions. Here's our response to what we should do before the ultimate payment made. So responding is not just approval or denial. It's going to be, it's just if there's radio silence from the city, the expectation would be that it has to move forward. Someone has to, if someone's waiting on payment who's done work, there's going to be other people in breach of contracts if they don't get paid.
In addition, normally we pay up front, and the city pays, if we approved it, and wait for our money from DCA. In this process, wait for money to pay the contractor instead of us upfronting. So that to me is more important than, because, timely, as Brian says, contractors do, expedite or want payments expedited. So we want to keep it on track, but we also, are not going to float a lot of money based on the way the arrangement is made.
Good, good. Oh, I know that this is time sensitive. We've been dealing with this for a while. Okay.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, open it for a motion.
I'm to approve, of St. Mark's Tower Preservation Development Agreement.
Still here, second.
Second.
Here the first and the second. All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Mr. Corey, city manager, anything for executive session?
We do. We have litigation and real estate. It'll be a brief litigation update, but we do have a real estate matter we need to discuss.
We will now adjourn to executive session for litigation and real estate. So we'll open it for a motion. Before that, I want to make one comment really quickly. On September 3rd, and it's important for the information to be out in the public. On September 3rd, the tax commissioner, Jeff Chapman, will be having a delinquent tax sale. On those rolls are over 70 to 80, I think more close to 100 city properties. Again, there is a delinquent sale inside of the city that Tax Commissioner Jeff Chapman will be selling those delinquent tax liens on over 100 properties. There are a couple things that I plan asking the tax commissioner as the mayor. I would hope my commission supports us in this ask. The first act would be to delay homes that we can see owned by families to a later date to be named. Vacating family-owned homes from homes that are already owned by LLCs or businesses gives us ample time and more time to contact the families of what is most likely heirs property. If these things are not bifurcated out, we will be seeing is probably the largest transition of land from private institutional historical ownership to the ownership of businesses or land owning entities. It is important for us to have that bifurcation and to have those things split out, because if by chance the commissioners have done everything to contact those families, it gives us as a city additional time to get in touch with those families so they can get caught up on their taxes so that families don't lose their properties. The second thing that we would do inside of that ask is if these homes are bifurcated out to a later date, again, homes that are owned by families, not homes that are already owned by LLCs. If homes are owned by businesses or LLCs, we are happy for those to move forward in this delinquent sale, but homes that are owned by families. It also allows our city to work on an in-rem foreclosure agreement with the tax commissioner that will allow our land bank to be an entity that brings properties in, and instead of those properties just being held by an LLC, not used, and they sit, and oftentimes they remain derelict properties, it allows the land bank as an entity, an in-rem foreclosure, to take those properties on to ensure they don't end up in the hands of just corporations, but they end up in the hands of actual families who need to move in these homes. The last thing that we will ask, or the second thing that I will ask of the city, if agreement is not reached before that time with the tax commissioner, I would let us as a city and us as a land bank be ready to get that tax sale, to use our dollars to bring those tax deeds under our purview. I think that's important because if we are the holders of those deeds, it allows us to then have further conversations with our land bank, further conversation with those families to again ensure that family-owned property, at least if it has to be moved, can't find a family, at least is moved to be used not for a business entity, but for an entity that will ensure families get into those homes at an affordable price. So I wanted to say that publicly because, again, that tax sale is going to happen on the 3rd. The work that we have to as a city will be hard, and it'll be a lot of work that we have to do before date. But I think it is incredibly important for our citizens, especially our citizens throughout the inner core of our city, to contact their family, if it's contact their friends, if they know the owners, if they go to church with them, do all they can to reach out to them before that September date so we can ensure home ownership is for everyone inside of this city. With that, I will open it for a motion for us to move to
I-
executive session.
Just one comment that we do have the Georgia Heirs program. They have a presence in Brunswick. They are able to work with heirs to try to either probate estates or compile the necessary deeds to convey property into a singular entity that could then sell the property or donate the property, something along the lines. But there is a presence here in Brunswick of the Georgia's Heirs property project, and I would encourage anyone to reach out to them if they think they have an heirs ready.
And as the land bank chairperson, it is important in the efforts that we're making to address the housing concerns and conditions, not only in the city of Brunswick, and this is very important, not only in the city of Brunswick, but also throughout the entirety of the county of Glenn, is that we continue to work in this effort and partner with one another, each entity partner with one another, so that we can continue to maintain the ability of residency in the city of Brunswick as well as in the county of Glenn. And so in order to be able to do this, there has to be a cooperative mindset that is communicated and demonstrated throughout not just the city of Brunswick, but also the county of Glenn. This is very important if we're talking about filling that need and that gap for sustainable housing, affordable housing, workforce housing, in the middle housing, whatever terminology you want to put on it. It's important that we all work together in this effort.
Thank you so much. With that, we will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn to executive session for discussion of real estate and litigation.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. We are in adjournment to executive session. We are back from executive session. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion. I move to direct the city attorney to initiate legal action as directed by the commission.
Hearing a first, do I hear?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now open it for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Hearing a first, second.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned.